स्वागतम, नमस्कार, केम छो, आदाबार्स, गुड आफ्टरनून। आप सभी का पीआरएल के अमृत व्याख्यान में स्वागत है, अभिनंदन है। A very warm welcome from me, Anil Bharadwaj, for the PRL का अमृत व्याख्यान. Today is the 43rd व्याख्यान of the series of 75 episodes of series of Vyakhyaan, which is being organized as a part of PRL's 75 years of legacy and history in fundamental physics and space sciences. Established in the year 1947 by the father of Indian space program, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, the PRL's Platinum Jubilee coincides with India's 75 years of independence. Hence, it's a joint celebration of the development of science and technology in India by PRL under the banner of PRL Ka Amrit Vyakhyaan. Today, we have yet another very distinguished speaker, a doctor by profession, a physician, and a chest specialist, Dr. Parthiv Mehta, who is a very senior pulmonologist, and he is at UN Mehta Institute of Cardiology, his own institute, and he is going to talk to us on living beyond 100 years, myth or truth. So it's a very apt topic and very interesting topic for all of us. And I thank Dr. Mehta on behalf of PRL for accepting our invitation and to join us in PRL's Platinum Jubilee celebrations and delivering the Vyakhyaan today. I would now request my colleague, Dr. Samir Dani, to kindly introduce Dr. Mehta to the audience on this WebEx planner, as well as those who have joined us live on the YouTube. Over to you, Dr. Dani.
Thank you, sir, and good afternoon to all. So today Dr. Parthiv Mehta is our guest speaker. It's my pleasure to give his introduction and thanks to organizing committee for giving me this opportunity. Dr. Parthiv Mehta is an MD in chest diseases. He is a fellow of American College of Chest Physicians USA and trained at Netherlands and France in interventional pulmonology and emergency medicine. He is practicing pulmonologist and intensive care specialist in Ahmedabad. He is having his own establishment, Mehta Hospital. Dr. Mehta has established concepts and standards of pulmonology and critical care in Gujarat and group practice in this field. He has an affiliation with reputed public sector government healthcare system like UN Mehta Institute of Cardiology and Research Center, and also having affiliation with number of private sector hospitals in capacity of major contributor on decision making for development and upgradation of facility, academic program and training of the staff. He is a trainer with Academy for Infection Management Endoscopy Training Program for Pulmonology, Environmental Medical Association of India and College of Physicians in India. Dr. Mehta is also a medical director of NGO Mission Life India. He has established emergency medical services with official affiliation to Gujarat Police, Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation and Fire Department. And he has helped Gujarat State Disaster Management Authority to successfully conduct training of emergency medical treatment and rescue operations. He is an acclaimed healthcare project and establishment expert, helped to establish Yogi Swami Holistic Healthcare Center, and this project is spread over 70,000 square feet and is inaugurated by Honorary Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi in December 2017. It is located in SDUT campus at SG Highway, and this project is first in India to serve as unique blend of treatment options like allopathy, Ayurveda, naturopathy, and yoga. Finally, Dr. Mehta is a clinician, educator, and researcher, having experience of over 30 years in clinical pulmonology along with healthcare administration and 40 clinical research projects as principal investigator in global study in field of pulmonology, infection, and critical care. So now I am inviting Dr. Mehta and requesting him to deliver his talk on very interesting topic, living beyond 100 years, myth or truth. Thank you. Over to Dr. Mehta.
Thank you, Dr. Dani, and thank you, Director Sir, for having given me this opportunity and come across and put through this fantastic opportunity to connect with the best of the brains, not only of this country, but also of the world. PRL has been always a sort of dream for anybody who has studied in science stream in their school days. So was with me. And having studied in the school in science stream, we would always be, fascinated about what PRL would be doing and what exactly is the, sort of contribution. But as we grow further, we could come to know that the PRL is the backbone of many research. And where India is right now is thanks to the researchers, the leaders, those who are sitting here. And having given this opportunity on hot summer in Ahmedabad, wherein we are almost touching 50s, it would be I should genuinely thank all those who have connected on net also through YouTube, that they have been missing their baraf golas and they have been missing their lot of other things, but they are joining with us. But for sure, after we conclude this, they would be taking a fist of that baraf gola or ice cream or a very fantastic bath, as it has been shown the children enjoying here at the end of the session. Anil Bharadwaj sir, Madam Nandita Srivastav, Dr. Samir Dani, Dr. Bhushit Vaishnav, Dr. Sheetal Patel, Dr. Lakesh Kumar Sahu, and the galaxy of others, those who have been introduced to me, have been putting in efforts, and I should congratulate them that this is the 43rd of the series of 75, bringing in, and I have gone through a few of the topics. Really, it has added on to our pool of knowledge. And I would like to put in here that out of the pool of knowledge, it has been well known to all of us that what I know, is a smaller component. What I know that I do not know is even a larger component. And what I do not know that I do not know is much, much larger than that. And thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity to reduce that what I know, I do not know to a certain extent by going through the lecture and the series of other deliberations which have been there on YouTube through PRL. Now I have to acknowledge my team because I am sitting with you. They have been working to allow me the time to sit with you and talk to all of those who are connected, because there are patients who would need some healthcare, and India is a country of diseases. India is a country of larger population, and we medics, we all know that they have been loaded a lot. So my team, Dr. Pankaj Vyas, Dr. Jigar Parikh, Dr. Saurabh Banjara, Divyang Patel, Dr. Kaushal Gandhi, and Komal Kothari, they are specialist physicians, intensivists, and they have been looking after my job to make it easy for me to communicate and to connect with the people like you all who will be adding on value to their own life and others' life by their own understanding into it. The topic is very interesting. What inspired me to come to this topic, I need to speak to you on that first. Our professor, Dr. Vipul Yagnik, a legendary physician in Jamnagar Medical College, where I did my undergraduate program, has been a kind of a person to whom we look for. Even at the age of 85, he walks straight, he speaks loud, he is very clear in the communication, no tremors in hand, and no, sort of blanking of any of the mind or thought when he's deliberating. So when we speak to him, he would always say that there is something in human body which requires to be sustained and maintained. Another person is Natubhai Shah, the Goodwin Travel owner. He is at 91 years. When I see him, he is the person who has been doing all the work, and he has been an exemplary person for the rest of the people who are connected to him. And going on to that, when we researched about what human body is, how the aging is going on, I was given the first opportunity by Dr. Agam Vora, who is in Mumbai, and right now he is the secretary of Indian Association of Physicians of India, API. And in API annual conference, he allowed me to speak on this topic and do some presentation of the research, whatever is available, and give a thought-provoking, presentation for all of us to think about: are we wherever we are? Should we be satisfied, or is it the myth or the fact? So I have tried to take up from the science and culture. Culture in India talks a lot about the life in physical form, life beyond, and even life in the tune of somebody after the death. So we have a lot of many things going on. So having gone through the culture of India, the first thing which comes to me is when I'm talking to the specialists from PRL, those who are in the physics and astronomy and whatnot, what I thought is that I have to start with this one. the science behind the culture of India. And there is a famous quote here is in Hanuman Chalisa that whenever we talk about the distance between the sun and the earth, there are a lot of numbers which have been reflected here, flashed here. And for sure, I'm not the right person to tell you what these numbers are and what does it mean. So I'll try to take this off. But what to me, as a layman, but who is interested in science and the culture, it is this, that when these numbers are being put in various definitions, the most important thing which has been placed here is important to us. Jug Sahasra Yojan Parabhanu Lilyo Tahi Madhura Falajanu. So what does it talk about? That the distance of the sun to earth is about Jug Sahasra Yojans. Now what does it mean? One Jug is 12,000, Sahasra is 1,000, Yojan is 8 miles. So when we calculate this, it turns out to be the same distance between the earth and sun. Now can we imagine how would this person Tulsidas, without having had those scientific gadgets, could he derive this specific distance? So that is what we should be feeling proud of our culture, which talks of science, which has now obviously been proven by the ISRO and the PRL and the national agencies. There is something very important otherwise. What it is talking about our life has been divided into different 4 ashramas, right? And there it has been mentioned that the individual life is to be lived for 100 years. Ashramas are Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. Sannyas not necessarily does it mean that we should be in saffron clad or whichever clad we believe and we should go to a jungle. No, but it is sannyas means we need to get through from whatever attachments we have and we need to get attached to the superpower and work for that particular entity which has made us. So when we talk of all these 4 multiplied by 25, it comes to 100. So where is the question? Probably I should not be presenting this. Yajurveda, what does it say? It is talking about the discipline to live that longer. A person who knows about the laws of nature as well as the self conquers death. It means that if my death as per my species is not at 80, I will conquer that death at 80 if I know the laws of nature and as well as I know myself properly. Knowing myself means knowing my body, knowing my functionality and whatnot things. When we talk of other, similar spiritual and similar, Indian cultural things, Jivan Sharada Shatan. It means that we always bless the people that may you live for 100 Sharad. And Sharad is the Rutu, which makes us, the pulmonologists, always busy because it has been known to be the weather or the season of lot of illnesses and lot of respiratory problems also. So when we are blessing somebody, may you live 100 years, it means there has to be some stuff into it. There has to be some truth into it. And that is what probably we need to visit and we need to understand about. WHO says that the health, the definition of health is not merely the absence of the disease. There are many more things beyond it. And when it says that the health is the continuum of the microcosm and the macrocosm, that's a very tough point to discuss on. But what we are going to take further is from Rigveda. They say that let us all enjoy the beauty of 100 autumns. So one is Sharad. Here we are talking of that autumn. Let all our sense organ have the strength to interact with external universe. That is the macro. Let all our motor organs do the function. So let it not shake. Let it not that I may be fed by somebody else. I may be taken up by somebody else in the optimal way. Thus, let us all live for 100 years enjoying the world around. I can listen to somebody, I can speak about somebody, I can sense somebody from smell, I can see. These are the senses which would remain for 100 years. When we believe that this has been already placed in our own Indian culture, why is it that we accepted that we are living for 70 or 80 or 90? That is the end of the life. So I'm trying to put forward today about the lifespan of various species. And what we see here is The tortoise, we know it lives more than 150 years. Human being has been placed here in 120 years. And this is a very fantastic book, Controversies on Aging. Why do our bodies grow old? That's a very good article to read and get understanding more onto this. And when we see the fruit fly is just 25 days. So when we talk of this, it is nothing else, but this is kind of a hourglass, wherein there is a rate which is defined for the sand to go down. For sure, it changes at 1 hour. If somebody makes that dropper or hole larger, for sure that it is going to end quicker. So your 1 hour can complete in 30 minutes. For somebody it gets completed in 45 minutes. But for sure, those who are maintaining that well, would it complete by 60 minutes only. And that is what the human being, as per the life expectancy, is supposed to be living for 120 years. Now we know that there are so many other, like older Ramayana, Mahabharata, that the Rishi Munis or the Rajas or the Maharajas used to live longer. They used to have their active reproductive life also, and they would be worthy. So it is not that at 70, 75, I need to be retiring and getting through everything. If I keep 120 as my target, for sure at 60, my only halfway goes through. Then as we say that life begin after 40, you get naughty after 40 because we take 80 is the cutoff. So at 50% of life, we start getting naughty at 40. That 60 age year also can become naughty or can become more active, because we know we need to live for 120 years. That is what is there on the books, on the records. Let us see what has happened in life expectancy world over. We have some data available here. And this is a study wherein different countries, European countries, and when we start from 1850, the life expectancy was somewhere between 40 to 50 years. And from 1850 until 2000, 2010, they have been able to achieve in 80s or up 80s, or some of those countries have even reached 90s. So this is what is the situation. So we have accepted until 90 as an age to live, as generally it has happened. So if you see this trajectory, let us see what Indian trajectory is talking about. In India, we have data from our independence. 1947, a child born in that year was averaged to live for nearly in mid 30 years, 35, 37 years, average age expectancy at that time. And we have seen the trajectory going up to double, that is nearly 70 years in 21, 22. So if I compare this, I should proudly say that we Indians have done much better than the rest of the developed world, whatever they claim for. Out of all adversities, against all the hassles of the life, all the hardships, still we have done much better. So we should salute every one of us. We should congratulate every one of us. But does it mean that we stop here? There is far more to go. And what does it mean? That we need to reduce the rate of emptying of this hourglass to a slower speed, so we can still achieve the same for which we are destined to live for. And what is it exactly in the terms of science, which is the one which is having effect on the restricted age? So if our age is restricted to 70 or 80, what is it that affects? It is something called as the telomeres. And it is the end of the chromosome. If my chromosome is having an end and it gets ended, it is called as the telomeres in the aging process. And there is an enzyme called as telomerase. If this enzyme replaces the telomeric nucleotides, it prevents telomeric shortening during DNA replication. It's a little more of scientific detail. And it is this enzyme which is responsible for extraordinary resistance to aging in a certain mice or the rat, which is called as the naked mole rates. So if these are the structures, your aging process would have a restriction or it will not get affected. Now we talk of Japan, famous Okinawa, wherein most of the people live beyond 100 years, and that has been connected with Okinawa diet and the kind of food what they consume. It is considered to be high in tofu and fresh vegetables, and you will be surprised to know tofu has an enzyme called as nattokinase. And this nattokinase is the one which keeps our capillary flowing. We have a mesh of blood vessels, even thinner than our hair, and that gets cleaned up by this tofu, which is an enzyme, which is nattokinase. Every red cell which is traversing through that capillary, which has one single cell traffic would not get clogged. So my brain would receive blood flow at the last of the cell. My heart would be able to flowing it well. My lung receives blood to the last of the air cell, which will be able to give oxygen. My kidneys would be able to flush out whatever we produce, and my functionality would sustain, remain better. So this is there in a natural food process, which is out of fermentation of soybean, which turns out to be tofu. Another fantastic study of New England Journal of Medicine, which talks about the New England centenarian study. What did they study? It was a massive study of the people who lived more than 100 years and found dozens of new clues for the biological process of aging. And the famous gerontologist said that if we start looking at the genes and what do they do, we'll be able to understand the biology of aging. And it is published in 2010, it is nearly 12 years before, in Science, that the finding from the test of 801 people who are living more than 100 years, they say that they have the gene into the numbers of nearly 15% of general population. So my genetic build-up is there if I am one of those 15% to live. So here only 1 in 6,000 currently lives. So out of 15% means practically 1 in every 7 would be able to live more than 100 years. But what we are getting is 1 in 6,000. So what is it where we have missed the bus? What is it that we have changed the lane? What is it that probably is something wherein we need to work on if we accept that this is not a myth, but it is a fact, and that will conclude at the end. So what are the statistics for India about how many people do they live 100 years or beyond in today's era? This is the list of countries, the way they fare, and what it has been said that in India, out of this many, only 2 lives out of 100,000 people, only 2.1 would live 100 years and beyond. And when we talk of other countries, like China, like Netherlands, like Russia, China doubles to India, Netherlands practically 2.5 times to China, but 5 times to India, and Russia 8 times to India. So is it only the genetic build-up, or there is something beyond that? That also we need to understand. These are the people out of 100,000, they live beyond 100 years. We are not talking about worthiness of living for 100 years, the hardship to live, that's a separate topic altogether. But we are talking about the possibility to survive 100 years and beyond, for which we are made to live as a species. Let us see what exactly is going on in the process of aging. There are multiple traits in the organisms tied to the normal development. And the body directly may not be programmed to acquire the gray hair, which we say it is a process of aging, wrinkles, diminished metabolic functions. But these are supposed to be the sign of aging, simply be the telltale side effects of activities of an organism. So if I am running around fast, if I am not taking care of myself, I may be showing off the sign of aging, but it is not simply the age truly as an age. It is age of that specific organ. It is age of that specific function, but it may not be age of the body as a whole. So aging has all these things. So what does it? Aging comes up as there is an impact of occupation, there is an impact of environment, there is an impact of genetics, there is a disease impact, lifestyle impact also. And when there's all combined together, what you get is the process of aging. So if out of us, those who are joined, say if we are 600 people, we have 28 live watching in YouTube as of now, and we are many here joined here. If we are 100, genetically 15 out of us are likely to be surviving 100 years and beyond. But there are many other variables which we do not include or we do not consider, and we simply say that because my father and mother, they did not live beyond 70 or 80, I am also likely to be live for that. No, you might have gene which from your grandfather or great grandfather or being an Indian origin person as per statistics, but these are the factors probably that would be affecting. Now let us come on to something which is very easy to relate to. We know that the human body is a car, or can be compared with a car which burns oxygen as fuel. Oxygen comes in our body, oxygen is being combined with glucose, the body manufactures certain ATP, generates energy, and it also gets heated up. So if I am using a car For sure, we all are using car. When we are using car, such a like if it's a Formula One racing car, which is a very expensive car. There are so many gadgets, there are so many other things which are required to be understood in running this car well. We need to be maintaining that, we need to be handling it well, we need to be seeing to it that we are not getting lost into it. The same thing is there in this amazing creation. But when I'm talking of a Formula One car, the Formula One car is manufactured in factory, every car is same, of the same model. But here, every piece is a unique and it has been gifted for free. Can we imagine for the patients who are having kidney failure, how much do they spend on maintaining that kidney function through dialysis or when they get their renal transplant done? Can we imagine somebody having other diseases? What is their maintenance cost? Because the price tag here has not been placed, 150 CR worth given for free. So we do not understand the gift which has been gifted by God to all of us as free, and we tend to get lost onto other targets of our day-to-day activity, targets of our earnings, targets of our so many things. So the target here should be to see to it that we care of this unique creation which is gifted for free to that extent that it is very original piece which is priceless. Now let us come on to some gadgets and numbers, which is going to be an interesting part of the whole talk. We need to know the numbers. The one who is driving Formula One would be very well knowing about all these numbers, what these red and green and blue and yellow would talk about. We are not driving Formula One day in and out, but we definitely are driving our own cars, which has a dashboard. And dashboard has a fuel gauge, it has a temperature gauge, it has a mileometer, it has a, what is called as tachometer, or the one which talks about the RPM, odometer, all these things are there. And when we see these red signals, what we do? We tend to go directly to the service station and we tell them that, hey, there is a red sign. See to it that you make it sure that you are correcting it. So I don't want to get lost in between because my car stops in between. गाड़ी बीच रास्ते बंद नहीं हो जाएंगे, उसके लिए हम काफी काम करते हैं. But ये गाड़ी बीच रास्ते बंद नहीं हो जाए, उसके लिए हम क्या करते हैं? Do we really know our numbers well? I'm with the scientists for sure, they would be knowing their numbers well. Like number of blood pressure, which is we know is 120 over 80. But do we know that it gets 140 over 90, then it is higher one? But do we really at the same time know that there is something called as age-specific variations and my blood vessels, which are elastic conduits. तो खून की नलियां जो होती है वो इलास्टिक वाली होती है. It has a capacity to expand and collapse. With the aging, the elastic tissues get little harder. So the pressure of the blood which is flowing inside as a fuel, which would be little harder or higher. Do we know about our sugar levels? Now we all know in COVID era, we had a lot of things going on, but these are the levels. Like if I am maintaining 99 of my fasting, and after having taken food 140 or below, I'm in a green zone. If I'm between 100 to 125 in fasting, I'm in an orange zone. And if I have crossed 126, I am a diabetic. If the same is for PPBS, 140 to 199 and 200. Do we know about our body temperature? There are variables in body temperature also. Women during their certain days of menstrual cycle may have little higher than normal body temperature. If I have been, in early morning in cold weather, my body temperature may go low down. But unfortunately, in the era of Sundar Pichai, if I'm measuring my body temperature at 99, 99.2, I try to Google. And when I Google, what is it? If I see something small black dot floating in my cup of tea, चाय में काला सा टिपका दिख रहा है तो क्या होगा? अगर मैं सुंदर पिचाई को पूछूंगा गूगल में, तो वो बताएंगे वो हाथी हो सकता है, वो डायनासोर हो सकता है, वो हिप्पोपोटामस भी हो सकता है, और वो मक्खी भी हो सकती है. और अगर मैं उनको पूछूंगा कि हाथी कैसे होगा, तो वो कहेंगे भाई चाय के कप के शेप का एक बड़ा सा खोज बनाया था. इट वॉज ए बिग लेक और सॉर्ट ऑफ दैट थिंग, जिसमें चाय कलर का पानी भरा था और हाथी को तैरते हुए हमने ड्रोन से पिक्चर लिया था. So they would try to put in the rare thing, but which is frightening as one of the things, and we start getting frightened. So if my body temperature is tuned to be 99.2 as a normal physiological body temperature, because I am a unique creation and only original piece, I don't need to take a paracetamol. I need not need to be treated for that high body temperature, which is otherwise normal for me. So these numbers are unique for every human being, and they are uniquely to be understood by every person, like Dr. Samir Dani or like Dr. Sheetal, who are treating from your organization, or others like us, wherein a new person is coming, is a new body. The same thing happens with the oxygen and heart rate, for which for sure in the era of COVID we have done masters on that, so I'm not going to take more onto it. So now coming on to this unique creation, can we imagine which is the organ affected most, which induces impact of aging maximum on our body? The organ affected most is this one. It is the lung. You would be surprised. My skin is considered to be one of the largest organ, which has nearly 2 square meter area with my height and weight. But the lung has a surface area out of which 300 million alveoli made to come together of a tennis court. And that's the reason when I breathe in and breathe out, within a fraction of a second, I take oxygen and I throw out carbon dioxide. When I breathe 10 liters of air in a minute, 2.1 liter, that is 21% of oxygen, which has been grabbed in by the lungs. And when it has been grabbed in by the lungs, it happens that that particular grabbing in by the lung would be given to the body, and body tends to give it to every organ. 2.1 liter of oxygen in a minute, 120 liters in 1 hour, and 2,800 liters in 1 day. That is the amount of oxygen every body, every human being on this planet Earth is enjoying. If they are enjoying this at no cost, over 300 rupees per person per day, can we imagine what exactly would be the amount of oxygen which would be used by all other species, all other animals? तो ये जो हो रहा है कि इतना अमेजिंग ऑर्गन हमें दिया गया है, and that too in an environment which has oxygen and water. And you all know best the process of oxidation, जंग लगना जिसको कहते हैं हम. The same way the process of oxidation happens in our body because we are using oxygen as a fuel. और जब ये जंग लगना शुरू होता है, when this oxidative stress starts coming up, our body tends to age quicker. It tends to age faster. And that is why this oxidative stress affects, and that increases not only the infectious disease, but the chronic and non-communicable diseases like diabetes, like metabolic syndrome, like thyroid disease, like hypertension, so many diseases. It is increasing because we are adding on to that oxidative stress. जंग लगाने की क्रिया हम कर रहे हैं. And since it is a process of oxidative stress, I thought I'll draw your attention to this amazing fact that non-communicable disease have been found to be increased because of consumption of so-called ultra-processed unhealthy food or drinks, the UPFs, which is associated with higher incidence of NCDs, non-communicable diseases. What does it read? It talks about that people, 5.8 people die of NCDs every year out of about 9 million deaths in India. And these NCDs are having very high sugar, salt, bad fats, and contain several chemical additives. So if I'm consuming all these, I'm bound to get these diseases. I'm bound to get aged faster. I'm bound to lose my vitality earlier. So though it has been claimed to be having impact on the quality of life or probably my overall strength and vitality, but it is not. These are the products. It increases the risk by 10% and risk of death by 29% in one of the largest study which has been done over 10,000 population who have consumed this for a longer period of time. So am I to consume this? Probably not. There are many more things which you and I can consume in our day-to-day life. So the system which is affected most is the lung. The reason is that we have a larger surface area, but more than that, this surface area is exposed to environment 24/7. If I'm putting on glasses, I'm protecting my eyes. If I'm putting on clothes, I'm protecting my skin. There are so many other things to protect all the organs. My heart is protected, my kidney is protected because all inside. Nose is bringing in every drop of air to the lung, though it gets filtered, but there is a capacity to it. I'm drinking water, but the water is purified and filtered water. So if I am drinking this filtered water, I'm bound to get a better quality of water to drink. But am I drinking that filtered air? I'm breathing filtered air? No. So this 24/7/365 environment is one of the largest factor for adding on to the disease and making an aging as an inevitable. Third unique thing is this human car is auto repairable. You don't need to go to a repairer to repair it. You need to provide the right raw material so that that repairing happens, and then our age goes up. So age of 18, what we have accepted right now, which is inevitable, but which may not be that. So what are the factors affecting aging? These are very important point to understand for all of us. These are the few ones which I have placed here. We'll visit one by one so that everyone who is attending will get an idea about. The first differentiation is between the gender, the male and the female. Females tend to live longer because until they have attained their menopause, they have been guarded by the hormones, which are the hormones of safety, which are the hormone to add on capability to withstand stress, the hormone to reduce diseases, the hormone to improve reparative functions. And once their menopause is gone, they come down to parallel to men. So women are stronger. They can withstand more stress. They can withstand emotional stress. They can do many more things. But when that hormonal status goes down, they come to that risk of life in the later half of their age. So in the first half, they have an advantage up to their 50s or for some near 60s. Second is body weight. We know that this is a body which is required to be weighing 1 kg an inch. So if I am 5 feet 9 inches, I should be weighing not more than 69. But unfortunately, नंदी जी को शंकर भगवान ने जब बोला था कि ह्यूमन बीइंग को जाके बोलो कि एक बार खाए और 3 बार नहाए. 3 बार नहाने का मतलब because there are 3 parts of water on earth. If I consume more water, I'll be able to flush out all the metabolites from my body. And I'll be able to keep my body fresh. And if I consume only one part of the food, I'll be able to digest it well and I'll be able to use it well because that is how I'm supposed to be living. नंदी जी ने बोल दिया 3 बार खाओ 1 बार नहाओ, और 3 बार खाओ और 1 बार नहाओ की वजह से हम 3 बार खाने लगे, और the right half of this picture, the severe obesity, morbid obesity and super obesity came up very well. So people are getting more and more obese and they are losing their life. And that is how, if you see the lungs, lung of a normal structured person, which is on the left in the middle, compared to lung of an obese, which gets compressed. My lung should remain open till 9 ribs. 9वीं रिब तक खुला रहना चाहिए, लेकिन अगर नीचे टमी आ गई है, वजन बढ़ गया है, तो lung would remain compressed. So the rate of breathing would go up because the volume is going to go down. I'll be panting, I'll be breathless, and I still will not be able to allow that much of time for oxygen, carbon dioxide exchanges. Then comes the food and the diet, which is very, very, very important. There are many things which we all must be knowing, but I'm trying to put in a little extra stress on what we are supposed to be eating from protein, fat, and optional extras like carbohydrates. Carbohydrates give us like liquid currency, ready energy to run. The proteins built up our immunity and built up our muscle strength for this structure to walk and run and do all stressful activities. And the fat is like this fixed deposit. It gets deposited the moment I have not taken enough calories. It will break down from lipolysis, so the fat will be broken down into carbohydrates, and my body will get fresh roll of carbohydrate to burn and go ahead. But when I'm breaking down this fat, I'm generating a lot of acids, which requires to be neutralized, which requires to be cleaned off. This human body is water cooled and water cleaned. The moment I drink enough water, the balance of water should be 60% plus in my body. If I am having enough water, say in the tune of about 25 to 50 ml per kg per day, I am weighing 80 kg, so I should be consuming 4 liters if I am high-end consumer of water. If I don't have a disease of kidney, I don't have a bad heart, if I don't have any liver disease wherein my doctor has said no to it, I can very well consume this much of water. I'll be able to maintain fresh environment for every cell to work within the body. So water cooled and water cleaned. So protein, fat and carbohydrate, we need to keep it balanced. If I'm weighing 80 kgs, I should be consuming about 80 to 120 grams of protein, 1 to 1.5 gram of protein every day. Protein मुझे मिलता कहाँ है? If I am a non-vegetarian, so I'll be getting it from chicken or the egg or whatever non-vegetarian food I'm taking. But if I'm a pure vegetarian, मूंग, मोठ, चना, राजमा, सोयाबीन, मटर, उड़द, सब दालों में से प्रोटीन मिलता है. We get equal amount of protein from milk also. So if I'm intolerant to milk, I can go for soya milk also. Otherwise, milk and all the pulses would give me enough amount of protein. So if I'm consuming protein, say about 35 to 40%, unless I have gout or I have gout or I have kidney disease, I'll be able to sustain that much of protein within my body. So my immune function remains good. My functionality of all the organs also remains good. Carbohydrate should be about 20 to 25% minimum. It can go up to 30 to 35% based upon my activity level. If I'm having sedentary life, I may not need to consume that much of fat or carbohydrate. It can still be reduced. And if I'm managing that, it is already available on net for very various things. If I'm managing well with this kind of pyramid, the food pyramid, I'll be able to sustain the required energy. When we fill up diesel or petrol in car, we talk of turbo fuel, we talk of common fuel. पेट्रोल गाड़ी में हम डीजल नहीं डालेंगे, डीजल गाड़ी में हम केरोसिन नहीं डालेंगे. We'll be always vigilant about the amount of oil what we put in, the quality of oil, the quality of coolant, because there is a price tag on that. Because there is no price tag here, we keep on eating everything. Whether I need it or not, I eat it. And the moment I do that, I add on to the problem. And then comes the important aspect of physical activity. This is a study which is mentioning and talking about what exactly is the various people and their effective physical activity. This has been done even with the Americans. And what has been found that only in 3 in 10 of the high school grade get 60 minutes of physical activity, and which is not so in those who have grown up and those who are in work activity. So these are all the factors which we practically know. But do we know about irresponsible quickers? Are agers are the ones who are responsible, are the one who are aging quicker? The reason for that is not only this, but this factor also is affecting. We have been doing a lot on environmental protection. We have been doing a lot of working on environment. What we are talking about is the external environment, which is beyond your and my control. There are pollution, there are chemical industries, there are automobile pollutions, but we have to think about this particular environment, and which is the home environment. You would agree this three looks very fine kitchen, nice kitchen, well illuminated. There is a gas which is near my window, and the window has been kept closed because the wind would be blowing and they would not be able to cook well. There is a girl who is cooking because at that age, Indian girl would come to kitchen, and there is an elderly lady who is there. That is the age frame for which they are exposed to kitchen. Now, do we realize that the fuel which we are burning is liquid petroleum gas, LPG? The same fuel which we burn in a car, the petrol or diesel. The fumes do go out, but here these fumes, because they are not seen, they are not smelling, that remain within the environment. And because of that, what happens? At the end of 30 years of remaining in kitchen for 1 hour, if at all I squeeze the lung after having taken out, this is the amount of tar in a woman's lung or a man's lung who is a cook. And this tar would be reducing the longevity. This is the one which is affecting without getting noticed even. So if this is the kitchen I am happy with, this is what I am providing. So what should I be doing? I should be extracting whatever is being burnt as the fumes or whatever it is coming out. So here we see that there is a chimney up there which is taking up. Though there are 3 windows, still this has been kept here to take and absorb whatever is being burnt. We have a notion that my gas is nearby window, I'm not requiring it. No, it is not so. If my gas is not near the window, this person has kept the chimney with a piping which takes away, which grabs everything. So whatever is the exhaust has to go out, not to the lung of a lady. And if I am doing that, the lungs which are like black and tarry would get converted to pink and healthy, and the beaker which there gets filled by tar, which will not get filled by the tar. And the lung would be able to provide fresh oxygen, which is the fuel for every organ to sustain health and remaining healthy. So now I'm coming on various theories of aging. I've just enumerated that. I'm not going to take in depth of it. It is already available on that. But only one theory which is doable, which is manageable, which is going to be in future for us to live more than 100 years, and that is the cellular theory. And there comes the process of stem cells. Stem cells are in vogue. It is there in the, a lot of treatment also. So I'm putting in a study here. This mice was 21 days, the life. and was injected with a stem cell. This was done in Institute of Regenerative Science in Pittsburgh. And when injected with this particular stem cell therapy, the mouse lived for 71 days compared to 21 days, which was the life expected for that particular mouse. Can you imagine what happens if we are injected similar kind of stem cells? We would directly jump from 18 years, we will go to 8 years, 200 years. But it is a far-fetched dream yet to develop those kind of cellular therapy and cellular modalities for living longer. But yes, it is going to be there in future. Probably we are little early born, but those who are in their 10 and 20 years of age, probably by the time they will be 50 and 60, they may get this. And that is what we are talking of, progress of science on aging. But that is something too far to go for. There are many other modalities like hormone therapy, cell replacement therapy, immune enhancement therapies, and there are other areas which have been worked, but these are all a slow process of development. So all those who are with gray hair like me and sir and all those who have been saying ma'am, those who have crossed their 50s, those who are coming into their 60s, probably by the time we'll be 80, which we have accepted as end of life right now, we may not be able to get so many of this to get into. But what is it? Can we do something to have our ways to prolong our life? And rather than prolonging that life, I would put in is ways to prolong healthy life. What can we do? हम क्या कर सकते हैं जिससे हमारी life prolong भी होगी और हम healthy रह पाएंगे? I don't want to get into stem cell, which may be very expensive for my pocket right now. I don't want to get into hormone therapies because there are many, disadvantages of those hormones being given at the age wherein I'm not supposed to be taking it. But I can do something which can help me to have my life healthy and prolonged. But right now it is very hazy. Many, literature and, a lot of sort of details are available on net. So when I start getting into it, some or other therapy, some or other, material would be there. So it is very hazy. I'll try to put it in simple terms. The one which will keep our organs healthy. The second, to keep our mind healthy. Third, to keep our bones and joints healthy. Fourth is to maintain our healthy aesthetics. And 5 is to maintain our healthy immune function. If I do all this, if I am ready to do this, I for sure would be able to prolong my life, which is healthy. So keep our organs healthy, like we know that our body is like a very expensive, even more expensive than a racer car. And the kind of services they do, the kind of part replacement they do. We can't do part replacement, but we can do servicing. We can get our body checkup done. We can do our assessments done, and we can do some early detection and management of diseases. We can take our medications regularly, which is going to maintain those functions nearer to a physiological normal function. We can do preventive checkups, and you have a fantastic setup with the PRL, which would be helping many of you. So probably on an average, longevity of a life of a person who is from PRL would be much higher than a common population. That can be a good study to be done by Dr. Dani and Dr. Shitu. And some preventive maintenances. For this preventive maintenance, I would try to put in stress on a metabolic control. Because metabolic diseases and uncontrolled metabolism is one of the biggest issue which we are facing. I need to understand my basal metabolic rate. What is the amount of calorie I'm burning per day? And what should be I consuming? अभी ये हो रहा है कि मैं 50 रुपये खर्च कर रहा हूँ, 100 रुपये ले रहा हूँ और 50 रुपये बैंक में जमा होते हैं. If my car is worth an average of 10 kilometers per liter, after 10 kilometers, if I put in 2 liters, the 1 liter is going to come out. अभी तो 100 रुपया हो गया है. तो थोड़ा दर्द होता है, वो दिखता है. But when my metabolic control is not there and I keep on putting in the things, it gets accumulated and body tends to get piled up with a lot of material which would be burnt either without oxygen or which would be stored, dumped in our body, and that itself becomes a metabolic stress. So fat metabolism, which is formation of fat and breaking down of fat, is one which is required to be controlled. और वो हम कैसे कर सकते हैं control? That we can control with something called as metabolic control mechanism. There are now ways and means available which will help us to make adjustments into various parts of our body. And if I can control this metabolic control, it will help me to reduce my blood pressure, it will help me to reduce my fat level, it will help me to reduce my sugar levels, and it will also improve the endothelial and vascular function. This is very important. Endothelium is the inner cell lining of my blood vessels. If at all it is remaining fine, like in the spacecraft, I've heard that whatever the piping and the lines would be there, it would be internally coated with stainless steel, which does not get any kind of stains. Nothing happens to that for decades or years together. The same way God has made this unique body with capability to run the same functionality. But if I consume more of fatty food, if I am under stressful life, if I am having more sugars, I am obviously making stretches in my endothelium, and that allows the clot to come up, that allows the irregularity to come up, and that allows sudden death as a thing. So if I can do metabolic control, it will not only control my obesity, fat, but also it will control the metabolic syndrome, which is going to be the menace for fourth year coming or the few years to come in. Then comes keeping mind healthy. A lot of activities are being done, doing yoga, doing pranayam, doing meditation and whatnot. But do we have something which can help us to keep that mind healthy by consuming something? There is a fantastic research which has come from France that in milk, there is something called as a lactium, which is a decapeptide. This decapeptide is very fragile. Mother's milk has this lactium, and when the child is being fed by mother, until the 1 year of age, हमारे स्टमक में इतना एसिड नहीं बनता है. ये लैक्टियम जो दूध में होता है, that gets absorbed and it goes to brain. It has calming effect, it has effect of concentration. So बच्चे को पेट भराने के बाद आधे घंटे के बाद सो जाता है, तो हम बोलते हैं कि अभी पेट में कुछ गया ना इसलिए सो गया. ऐसा नहीं है. It is this lactium which is having a calming effect on brain and which makes a child to calm down and have restful sleep. Now, do we imagine what is the function of our sleep at night? Whatever carbon dioxide I'm producing by burning oxygen and glucose, it gets absorbed in blood in terms of acids. And when at night, when I'm not doing any activity, when I'm not consuming oxygen, carbon dioxide gets eliminated by exhalation. So if at night I have a restful sleep, not with snoring, not with lot of awakening, not with lot of fat compressing my lungs, I'm going to have a fresh, refreshing sleep, and I wake up early morning or during the morning with normal body levels of everything, which will give me a good functionality. This is there in milk. It has been isolated from cow milk and it has been formulated in a pill. But can we imagine the same thing is there in our day-to-day food, which is called a kada milk? Our forefathers, पुराने जमाने में कहा जाता था कि रात को दूध का एक बड़ा सा ग्लास पीना है, कड़े हुए दूध का. That milk, when उसको कढ़ा जाता है, the fat which is there in milk, it gets coated over this lactium protein. And when that lactium, which is coated by fat, goes through stomach, stomach acid will not be able to harm or hurt that lactium. It will go in intestine part 2, and from there fat will get dissolved. Lactium would go from there to blood to brain, and it will give me a calming sleep. और हम क्या कहते हैं, रात को दूध का बड़ा सा ग्लास पी लिया इसलिए नींद आ गई. No, दूध का ग्लास से simply नींद नहीं आई है. There is a science behind it. So once again, I'm talking of the culture of India and science of modern era, which is clubbed together as a lactium, which is a product. It has a fantastic effect. It makes sure that it also controls the level of cortisol in our blood, which is a marker of stress. So if I have higher cortisol, my body is highly stressed, it is burning fast, and it is reducing my days to live. Then comes something for bones and joints. We get arthritis, we get osteoarthritis, we get other pains, we get swellings. There is a lipoxygenase pathway. There is a cyclooxygenase pathway, which has been controlled by cyclooxygenase inhibitors, which are the medicines which we give. But there is another pathway wherein there is something, if we control that pathway, will reduce the inflammation. Swelling nahi hoga, pain nahi hoga, joint stiff nahi ho jayenge. How can we control that? It can be controlled simply by LOX inhibitors. And these LOX inhibitors की effect asthma में भी है, epilepsy में भी है, Parkinson's disease में भी है, depression में भी है, osteoarthritis में भी है, cancer में भी है, different kind of allergies में भी है. और वो कहाँ से मिलता है? The herbs and roots. It is there in our day-to-day life. It is there in soya bean. It is there in certain herbs. And if we are consuming this in a proper way, the germinating seeds, जिसको अंकुरित कहते हैं हम, it will provide us this. And if we are consuming this, it is going to reduce the stress to the body. The stress which is coming out of metal in our food, the stress which is coming out of excess of salt in our food, the stress which is coming out O3, ozone. Everything would be taken control. Like it is controlling the stress to the plant, the same way it reduces the stress to the body, and consuming such food would be able to help us controlling all these organs and their disease process, which is once again the culture of Indian healthy eating. And there is something called as, which is a newer science, which is called as spleen tyrosine kinase inhibition. This is a unique thing. This will stop our osteoarthritis coming on. This will stop our bones and joints getting hurt. This will stop breaking down of the bones. This will stop getting spinal problems. This will stop helping us to sustain our life. Now comes collagen, which is the part and parcel of our healthy aesthetics. My nail gets brittle at 60 because my collagen goes down there. My skin starts getting wrinkled because collagen goes down. My health starts getting brittle because collagen there goes down. मेरे hair fall होना शुरू हो जाता है क्योंकि collagen कम हो रहा है. You'll be surprised to know that collagen reduction or production decreases 1% per year at the beginning of age 23. पर जब ये प्रोडक्शन 1% पर ईयर के मुताबिक जब 20% से कम हो जाता है, that is generally been taken as nearer to end of life. So if I am reducing 1% per year, I am still likely to live for 80 years. So that would be 100 years without saying anything. But because I am into many activities which enhances the rate of reduction of production of collagen, obesity ज़्यादा है, preserved food खाते हैं, chemical वाला खुराक है, environmental pollution है, stressful life है, everything would affect my production of collagen. It will impact my process of aging, and that process of aging would enhance the rate of reduction of the lifespan. So if I am controlling my collagen, I should be able to control the process of aging, and that can be very well controlled by a substance called as orthosalicylic acid. Choline stabilized orthosalicylic acid. This is the one which is a substance required to activate the biological pathways which is generating collagen. So अगर मैं ये consume करता हूँ, which is once again one of the natural substance, which now is available artificially also, which will do so many things. It is stimulating fibroblast activity. It is increasing nutrition delivery to increase the blood supply. It is stimulating collagen generating enzymes. So it is going to promote bone and skin health. So I am going to look healthy. I am going to look aesthetic, and I am going to live longer and healthier. And then comes the major important aspect, which has affected recently all of us, is the immune function. हमारे immune function defense is my skin is my first defense. Then comes the second line of defense, which is the cells which are available in various organs there itself. And then comes the defense cells like lymphocytes and antibodies, the chemical and the cellular. All these required to be kept upcharged. But if I am not consuming enough of raw material to produce my defense system, simply हम अगर गोली नहीं देंगे, हम बंदूकें नहीं देंगे, so how am I going to defend my country? Same way, this body requires to be defended, and you will be surprised to know number of bacteria and viruses on this human body is 100 trillion. You can imagine multiplication to the population of world, or probably more than any other living animal on this earth, total combining it, still the number of bacteria would be much higher in every single human body. And if we are defending them, we can imagine what back office defense system is there in every human body. We do not realize it, so we do not respect it. मैं बाहर जाके गन्ने का रस पीऊंगा, I'll get in some more typhoid and germs. कहीं जाके आइसक्रीम खाऊंगा, कहीं जाके कुछ खा के आऊंगा, फिर कहेंगे कि अरे भाई डॉक्टर साहब ने दवाइयां दी और फिर पेट में मुझे गड़बड़ी हो गई. अरे भाई दवाइयां तो जब देनी थी दी, आप लेके आए तब, बट उससे पहले खा के आया उसका क्या? Because we are not made to realize, we do not value that, and that immune dysfunction is increasing all kind of infectious diseases, and that is now becoming concern. अभी कोरोना गया नहीं कि मंकी पीछे पड़ गया है, right? तो एक के बाद दूसरा आना शुरू हो गया है. So these are there because our immune function tends to go down. If I am not having enough rest, if I am not having enough nutrient, if I am not doing enough exercise, if I am not doing my life requirement as per the stipulated concerns, मैं गाड़ी खरीदता हूं तो उसमें मिलता है हर 3 महीने पे आप सर्विस कराएंगे, 120 से ज्यादा नहीं चलाएंगे, ऑयल देखेंगे, पानी देखेंगे, टेम्परेचर बढ़ने दे देंगे, टायर प्रेशर करेंगे, ग्रीजिंग कराएंगे. Unfortunately, God has not given us this, and we take it for granted and likely because we are not paid for it. And we do not pay for it, all these things tend to come up, and that is where the immunization has become one of the major key. When we immunize a person, we tend to help a person to improve overall immune response. Not to get into the depth because we are already short of time, I'll take you through this important mechanism of T cells, the helper cells, and the delayed hypersensitivity cells, and the suppressor cells. There are 3 types of cells. So if my helper cell is being charged well with a vaccination or an infection, they would be always ready to produce the bullets for my gun. But if at all it is not being charged well, I'm likely to succumb. So if I develop my antibody and then I get another activity, infection, I am going to have a long immunity. But when it gets low, if I have been given a booster, either by a memory of infection or an vaccination, my immune system would be charged enough to protect me against infections. And the moment I'm protected against infections, my disease process and my life prolongation process would be balanced. We all know that we have DNA in our body, and that production of DNA and reproduction of that is based on so many things. So if I have an immune function which is doing well, it is going to help my control of aging, and it is going to help me activating the genes through peptides which are there, which will produce more and more DNAs, which will going to prolong my healthy life. But for that, I need to make it sure that my inner environment is free of infection. It cannot be free of bacteria, but it has to be free of notorious bacteria, which is infection. So if I can do that, I can help in controlling the whole process of aging. So now let us summarize it quick. So to live beyond 100 years, what we should be doing? We should extend our services or our activities beyond the diagnosis and treatment of disease only. आप कार रिपेयर करवाने जाते हैं, बाद में बोलता है सर अभी से ऑयल बराबर चेक करते रहना, टायर प्रेशर भराते रहना. Dr. Dani also would be telling you, get your BP checked up, get your sugar checked up. But since no price tag, we don't get serious onto it. We should be very sincere on promoting the functions and prevention of the decline. Jaise we have achieved, Indians, we should be saluted. In 1947, we are probably in mid-30s in our life expectancy. From there, we have gone to 71. We have doubled in 75 years. Compared to mid-1800, from there, the Western world has doubled now. So that is what is an achievement, but we should work more into it. We must focus on improving the understanding of the science of aging. If I am understanding the science of aging, it is worth for my life, for my own self. जिसको कहते हैं ना कि हम हमारे खुद के लिए काम करेंगे. Selfish बनना जरूरी हो जाएगा in this term aspect. And if I am healthy, if I am understanding it, I'll be able to help my family itself. And collectively, we all would be healthier as a community also. Interdisciplinary care giving is very much needed. It is not only the job of allopath or Ayurveda or homeopath or yoga or meditation or an economist or a physicist or a scientist. It has to be a collective effort. And if we all can come together, India would have the longest longevity for sure. We have the youngest population right now. Our average population is nearly mid to late 20s or mid 30s. So if we can help them understand this, we can bring them to the longest living population, and which would be also longest functionally living population. Not the one which is retired and which is a burden to the economy, but it is a contributing population. So to live beyond the 100 years, it is you need to think of sustainable health. I'm achieving health and I need to be sustaining also. For that, I need to have an approach which is having ecological base, environmentally, economically, socially viable, and which is infinite. Not for a shorter period of 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. We need to have an approach that works harmoniously, both with the human body and the non-human environment, like environment as a physics, environment as chemistry, environment as biology, and so many other things. So the complex system of interacting approaches, restoration, management, and optimization is much more needed rather than what we are focusing only on illness. We need to get down onto wellness and sustaining wellness with the health. Can you imagine if they all lived 100 years? What would have been the scenario in India? Obviously, Vikram Sarabhai is the first name to come in. The man next to him, probably the medics would know, he's Dr. Neetu Mandke, the man behind creating KD, Kokilaben Ambani Hospital originally, a legendary cardiac surgeon who operated twice, Balasaheb Thackeray and many other people. And he was having a vision to provide healthcare to everyone in affordable way. Madhav Ramanuj, the legendary musician, R.D. Burman, Sardar Patel himself, and none other than Vyakhyaan. Why do I love him most? Because not only I've read him, but when I'm reading him, I think that if he had not missed this bus of life, he would have made a lot of difference in the rate at which this life is spent. The life has been lost by just saying that living beyond 100 years is not a myth. It is the truth. Yes, we can live beyond 100 years, and he'll tell us that arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached of living beyond 100 years with whatever efforts we can do, with whatever resources we have. So let me tell this here. If we could not live more than 100 years, healthy is not the goal. Healthy should become the way of living. And if he is saying us this, probably we all would be able to see this kind of picture in our own families. A lady of 108 years is holding great-great-grandchild, and that is the picture which is there on the net, which can be seen a 108 years old lady holding a 1 or 2 years child, which would be having a good long life. Thank you so much. May I request to shut down this presentation, please? Thank you, sir, for patient hearing.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello. Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Parthiv, for giving such a nice, wonderful, mesmerizing, and informative talk on this topic. And now I'm sure that the audience has been waiting to ask a lot of questions. So I request Dr. Sheetal Patel, my colleague, to conduct this question and answer session. Over to Dr. Sheetal Patel.
Thank you, Dr. Dani. And thank you, Dr. Parthiv, for wonderful session. It was a journey from a spiritual course to a pure science and emphasizing the pure Indian culture. So it was a wonderful session. And now the session is open for the question and answer. We have a WebEx and a YouTube participants. You can ask the questions to Dr. Parthiv. Yes, the session is open for the question answer.
There is a comment by Bhaskar Mukherjee, prolong life by setting the purpose of life. That is true, Mukherjee sir. We need to understand the purpose of life, and as a medical scientist, probably I would not be the right person to take a topic on purpose of life. But my purpose of life should be, I should be worthy enough as a human being the way I am destined to work on this planet Earth.
There is a question from Neeraj Rastogi.
Ji, Rastogi sir.
Yeah, you can ask Neeraj bhai.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for such a nice talk. I could not hear the complete talk because of some network issues, but whatever I have heard, that was wonderful. So I have a question regarding, you were talking about the tar which is accumulating in our lungs. So that means whatever we are inhaling, it is going and part of it is getting deposited in lungs. So what is the natural mechanism by which it comes out from the lung? Suppose if you cut off the input, means all pollution is stopped. Now whatever tar is there, if you have to remove, what is the process and can we expedite that by some way?
Thank you, sir. This was the question I had anticipated from physicians and physicists and the scientists like you all. And this is the question which is quite nearer to my heart, because if we will understand this mechanism, for sure our lungs would live 800 years for sure. Let other organs go down, right? Now let us understand first the process. Since we have time, I am taking liberty of taking time. When we are breathing air, it comes from our nose. There are mechanical filters which are called as hair. And there is a sticky secretion which is there inside the nostril. So when air passes through it, it passes through a lane which is quite tortuous. And during that, whatever the particles are there will get stuck to that and it will be purified. And when it is purified and it comes to our throat, there is a vocal cord mechanism which would allow, it will open up and it will allow the passage of air with breathing in. Now, can you imagine what mechanism this nose has? It is a filter, it is a humidification, dehumidification mechanism, and it is a temperature regulator also. I am going out in temperature of 48 degrees, but my lung cannot handle that 48 degrees worth of temperature. It needs to be cooled down to 37.5. So that hot air, when it is traversing through this nose, it will absorb that excess of heat and will make it within a fraction of a second, it will make it cool enough to go inside my lungs. So when I am breathing that hot air, it becomes cold. When I'm in 10 or 8 degrees temperature, it becomes warm. When it is highly moist, it will become little drier. When it is very dry, it will become moist because my lung can hold, or which is a breathable, respirable air quality, which is 50% plus minus 10% of the air of humidity of air. So these are the mechanisms here. If it is provided with loads larger than that, because there is a capacity for it, it will go through vocal cords and it will go inside the lung. Now, once again, there is a problem which has been created by human species. We were monkeys, as we understand. And all four-legged animal, they have horizontal respiratory system. नाक में से हवा आती है, आड़ी जाती है. When I pull down my legs down, it becomes, gravity becomes my clearance mechanism. गाय, बैल, कुत्ता, बिल्ली, हाथी, घोड़ा, चूहा रात को उल्टे लेटते हैं, नाक नीचे होता है, फेफड़ा ऊपर होता है. Human being as a species has a typical tendency to lie on our vertebra. So the lung remains low down और नाक ऊपर रहता है. सर हमारा फेफड़ा 65% is behind the midline. So if I am lying down flat on my back, I am not allowing the bottom, which is loaded with lot of dust, pollutants, material, to get cleaned out by natural process of gravity, which brings it out, which drains it out. Trillions of hair-like structures are there in our conduits, which are airways, जो कि उसको पकड़ के बाहर तक ले आते हैं. On the passage, there is a saliva kind of a secretion, जिसमें वो dissolve हो जाते हैं. The chemicals get absorbed by microcapillaries. The bacteria and the virus and the fungi would be killed by defense of the cell mechanism. But in case if the load is quite higher, it tends to gravitate. वहां पे गलती हो गई भगवान की, हमारी तो होती नहीं है. नाक का छेद यहाँ पे दे दिया. If at all my nostril was at my navel, हवा नीचे से ऊपर आती थी. नीचे जाने के टाइम with gravity पूरी हवा के साथ कचरा निकल जाता था. But it is not happening. Going with the gravity, air is going down, the heavier substance is sediment there, and that sedimented substances tend to pile up. Now आप चाय की छलनी देख लो, उसमें और मलाई और चाय का भुक्का रह गया है और सूख गया है. आप चाहे कितना उसको छिटकारोगे साफ नहीं होगा. अगर उसको आप पानी में गीला करोगे तो फटाक से वो गीला हो जाएगा. So hydration is the key. When I am inhaling steam daily, I am hydrating my airways until the bottom. तो वहां पे जो भी चिकनाई बनी हुई है, जो भी water soluble chemicals है, it will melt down and my defense cells would be able to absorb it. There is an ongoing process of absorption of this material, which then is taken by our lymphatic system, which is our defense mechanism. From there, whatever chemical material goes to the kidney, it will be thrown out by urine, and the rest of the debris of organic material would be broken down into usable proteins. बैक्टीरिया को मार के हम उसको फेंकते नहीं है, उसके प्रोटीन को हम डिग्रेड करके उसको भी हम यूज कर सकते हैं. So there is a defense system which has been given to the body. But unfortunately, when this kind of chemicals which go beyond our capacity to control, it tends to settle down. Can you imagine 800 square feet worth of an area which has been folded in 3 dimensions? And what is the amount we are inhaling? मेरे 800 फीट का घर है, 10 फीट बाय 10 फीट के 8 कमरे, कितनी धूल आएगी? But that is primarily been filtered here, and then it goes down. So whatever is escaped out of this, still it is going down, and that is creating a trouble. So the simple submission here would be, घर में कोई भी है, लेडीज है, जेंट्स है, उल्टा लेटना सीख जाइए 3 से 4 घंटा. कोरोना के टाइम में काफी सारे लोगों ने करा होगा, but otherwise also we need to do that. Steam inhalation सीख जाइए, and very important thing is to stretch our every cell of our lung. It is an elastic cell. अगर मैं उसको स्ट्रेच नहीं करूंगा तो वो स्ट्रेचिंग कैपेसिटी कम हो जाएगी. ग्रेजुअली इट विल स्टार्ट गेटिंग कोलैप्स्ड. इट विल रिड्यूस इट्स कैपेसिटी टू एनहांस एयर फ्लो, टू टेक मोर एयर. when I am sitting like this, I am taking 10 liters of air, but when I am doing some activity, it goes up to 50 liters of air, 60 liters of air in a minute.
Okay, I got your point, but what you are talking about is about coarser particles or subtle particles. But we have many fine and ultra fine particles which can go deep under up to alveolar regions.
It would get absorbed from alveolar regions. It will get into blood vessels also. It can get collected into blood system also, and it can affect our rest of the organs. So if at all there is a chemical which affects the functionality of our brain, it would be affected by those. That is why those who are working in chemical industry tend to develop certain diseases which are called as occupational diseases out of those chemicals. They don't eat it, they inhale it, and then from lung it gets absorbed. So the particles which are larger than capacity to absorb would sediment there, and that gets collected as a tar.
Parthiv bhai, our director Dr. Bhardwaj wished to ask one question.
Ji.
Dr. Bhardwaj sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sheetal, and thank you, Parthiv bhai, for a very excellent talk, giving in a very lucid manner, and also reminding us of many of the things which we have been hearing from our childhood, you know, that people should drink milk in the evening or night before sleep, eat germinated seeds and things like that. And it's a good reminder, you know, because we tend to forget many of the things which is told by our grandmothers and mothers. But good that you have reminded us that we have to continue doing that. My question is very simple in terms of very basic of human physiology and human medical science. In terms of what we say is that as we age, our number of cells, reproductions start decreasing, and that is one of the cause which is the which leads to aging. You mentioned in many different ways like colons and things like that, and their number decreases. But is it basically the ultimately the cell which gets lesser and lesser in number, which actually causes the aging?
That is true, sir. But there is once again a theory of reparative function. I have to maintain my reparative function by providing raw material for production of sufficient DNA for a given cell. Because my nucleus and its manufacturing would be dependent on two things. One is the DNA manufacturing, and second is the cell line manufacturing, which cell wall is created by cholesterol. It doesn't mean that if I take a lot of cholesterol, I'm going to be not aging. It is the reverse. So this particular process of aging is dependent on these two functions, wherein the function of reparative function is that the human body is destined to be living for longer years, provided it is worked under physiological condition. And what has been defined as physiological working condition, not to work more than 8 hours in a day, to sleep like a log for 8 hours in a day, wherein I am not consuming any oxygen, I am washing out every carbon dioxide drop which is accumulated, and my environment becomes fresh, pH neutral, with lot of fluid which would be required to be remanufacturing the stuff. And third important thing is I should be resting for 8 hours, though I am awake. Resting is peace of mind, physical rest, and doing certain activity which is going to be enhancing my rest of the reparative functions. That is my little bit of my exercise, or little bit of my food and diet, little bit of my yoga, pranayama, or those kind of meditation. But do you think that we are sticking to that schedule of not working more than 8 hours? PRL is obviously blessed, but you will be surprised. The Indian doctors, the life expectancy is minus 15% to an average life expectancy of an Indian common citizen. The reason is that working is not restricted to 8 hours. It goes to 12 hours. It goes sometimes to 16 hours. It goes to Saturdays and Sundays. Sundays को सर को पेट में दर्द होगा तो दानी जी घर पे भी आएंगे, शीतल जी को फोन भी होगा, उनका काम भी किया जाएगा. That works because the doctors are tend to be working like machines, not having any grudges. I'm very happy that I have been made a doctor by Almighty, but this is what it is. So, sir, if I am functioning in a physiological range, then my physiological reparative function and production of cell would continue. But if I am not remaining working in a physiological range and I am expecting the cell regeneration to be in a physiological range, it is not going to happen. It is the pathology which is going to supersede that physiology. So that is where we probably need to be concentrating more on, sir.
Thank you so much for explaining in a very lucid way, so that people like us will also be able to understand those nuances which is there inside the medical science. Thank you.
Parthiv bhai, the next question is from our senior scientist, Dr. Deshpande. Deshpande sir, you may ask the question.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Mehta, for indeed very informative and thought-provoking talk as well. I have a couple of academic sort of questions. So I have 3 slides, because in the first slide, in which when you talked about the Tom Williams of Queen Mary University, and you mentioned about the telomers, and then at that time we ascribed something to telomers, that they are perhaps restricting or favoring or non-favoring. Then somewhere in the mid of your talk, you said that the biological aging process is not the result of rigid genetic program. So that means the aging is sort of not related to genetic. So I could not actually grasp that we should ascribe it to genetics or should not ascribe to genetics.
We should not only ascribe only to genetics. That was the reason. That was the message. There are multiple variable factors like environment, like stress, like physical activity, like food, like physiology, like pathology, like diseases, which is superseding the genetic makeup of living for 100 years or beyond. And that's the reason India has only 2.1 out of 100,000 living, wherein Russia is 16.5. Even countries like China has 4 out of 100,000 living. So these other factors compounding and superseding the effect of genetic build-up, that was the message, sir.
The second question was pertaining to the life expectancy chart which you showed for the European countries like Sweden, Norway, Netherlands. So there, if you look at that chart, somewhere around 1950, there is a inflection point. The slope has suddenly come down. So is there any conspicuous that happened in 1950?
Sir, actually, there are some effects of certain aging process affected by diseases. And in 1950s, there was a high inflation of metabolic diseases, like obesity, like new lifestyles, like Coca-Cola coming in, like fried food coming in, tin food coming in, packed food coming in. And they learned it very quickly. And that is how now they are changing the gears towards the other aspect of it. So that was the typical modernization, and probably it was the era of industrialization and instrumentation, more of that, which we are lagging now.
Okay. My third question is pertaining to this slide of life expectancy in India. So actually you use that slide for mentioning the positive aspect, that our life expectancy has doubled from 35 to say 70 from 1950 to 2020. But the associated question is that that in spite of very nice living practices, why did our country had such a poor life expectancy? Because while you say this kada doodh or traditional wisdom like tulsi and adrak and so many things, so India is rich in that cultural heritage. So in spite of that, why did our life expectancy was less than the developed countries?
Unfortunately, I do not have data from 1650 to 1950.
Okay.
What happened when we were ruled by others?
Okay.
What happened to our quality of life? What happened to those stress factors? What happened to infection? What happened to other values? So that is a tough question to answer. But I probably started from where I had the data. But yes, that's something wherein but that is where I'm talking about. 1,000 years back, 1,500 years back, Ramayana, Mahabharata, all those, they mentioned.
Yeah, Arjun was 125 years when the Mahabharata war was there. He was 125 years old.
So, thank you, sir. So now you have endorsed it that we can live beyond 100 years.
Right. And I have last question, and that is a sort of hypothetical question, that you say that 8 hours of working and sufficient time for sleeping and all these things. So, I mean, that is true that should be done, but it is practically not possible, to be very honest with you. So we all know. So the question is this: that is there going to be something like self-sustaining mechanism where our body, our genetic makeup will get used to this kind of living, or
It would come up, sir. It would come up. That is what is called as adaptive mechanisms.
Right.
Like COVID virus has adapted to newer temperature, lesser humidity. The same way human body also has an adaptive mechanism, but unfortunately it is the number which affects. You need 25 generations to adapt to newer environment. So human being 25 generation is minimum 21 year is the first reproductive generation. So if I am at 21, I am reproducing. My next generation at 21 reproduces. It doesn't happen, but still hypothetically it will take not less than 500 years to get adapted to those kind of situations and get onto the mode wherein probably we can still with that withstand and live with it. But that is not happening. Before that, we'll get the cellular therapies, we'll get gene therapies, we'll get so many things which will probably help us to prolong our life without getting into hassles of getting adapted to those adversities in environment.
Right. Thank you so much for answering my questions. Thank you so much.
The next question is from our Dean, sir, Dr. Pallam Raju, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. Thank you very much, Parthiv, for an excellent and illuminating talk with a lot of information, a lot of ways of living, and how do we change our lifestyle to increase our expectancy, life expectancy, and also healthy life expectancy. So I have, some of the points have been touched about, but what I couldn't understand one point was that when you said that in terms of immunity, it's boosted by memory. So what is that actually? I have not come across that. Can you please explain?
Simply, I'll explain. Nearby my house, there are some hooligans who are coming and pelting stones. First time it happens, I don't realize what has happened. But every week, if they come and hammer me, by third or fourth instance, I have a memory that now tomorrow morning they are going to come in. I'm going to keep few other stones ready to pelt it to them, to give it back to them. The same way our body recognizes the invaders. There are some healthy bacteria. As I told, the number is more than 100 trillion. And there are some notorious bacteria, which is we called as infection. So such notorious bacteria, when they come into our body, we have some sensors, which are called as the receptor cells, which will grab one of those bacteria, will disintegrate. If there is a new gadget or device comes in, the scientists and physicists, they disintegrate, try to understand in and out of everything. Ye kya hai, kahan se, kaise hai. You bring a rock from moon and then you try to do lot many things on that. But then this is where the same way our body tries to disintegrate and tries to understand that what is it as a defense in future if I come across, wherein I will not allow that invader to damage me more. So that is called as our memory. So when I am getting 1 or 2 or 3 episodes of infection, which generally happens in children, when they are in nursery, when they are in KG, they develop common cold, they bring cold and they give it to our elderly also because they have forgotten that infection. So their immunity has gone down. So same way, and then we develop. That is where the vaccine function has come. One dose, that is the first episode, give second dose, that is called the dose 2, and then give the booster. So I will never forget that if somebody like this comes in, I'm going to hammer them and I'm going to control over it.
Thank you. Another point was that I had read an article on the rate of breathing and the life expectancy in the animals that you have shown in the similar fashion. So the smaller the rate, the longer the activity or the life. So what is that? Does it all the 4 or 5 points that you made? Collagen, LOX, and lactium. They are all in the proper proportions in those, or they become in the proper proportions when you breathe in that fashion?
I'll come on to that, sir. The rate of breathing from human being is 14 to 16 times in a minute. Yeah. Because when you and I breathe, ideally we are supposed to be breathing 600 to 750 ml of air with every breath. So when I'm breathing 16 times, multiplied by 600, it is 10 liters. That is what my body needs at rest. So if I have enough collagen in my tissues, my thoracic cage will open faster, my diaphragm would go down, it will generate a negative intrathoracic pressure, and air will gush within, and it will come from -15 to +10. And with that, with my collagen and elastin in my air cells, which are alveoli, it will compress it again. That alveolar recoil will exhale that air, which will have carbon dioxide. If I am fat enough that my depth of respiration goes down, say from 600 ml to 500 ml or 400 ml, my rate of breathing would be higher. Now, where is that connect with the longevity? That is in heart. Heart has an impulse generator, and imagine that my heart is beating 72 times plus minus 10 times in a minute. God has given enough number of impulses to run for 100 or 120 years. But if my body weight is higher, if my rate of respiration goes higher because of that, because the depth is less, with every one respiration, heart has to beat 4 times. So if I am breathing 16 times, my heart rate would be 64 times in a minute. If I am breathing 25 times, my heart would still be beating faster. And that is the reason those who are having that kind of dysfunction of their physiology, their lifespan, that hourglass hole becomes larger and lifespan ends quicker. कल तो साथ में चाय पिया था, पता नहीं आज सुबह क्यों नहीं उठा, अरे भाई वो डिब्बी जो है खाली हो गई, क्या करेंगे अभी. So that is how it happens. But yes, there is an impact of collagen, there is an impact of bone and joint function, there is an impact of overall body weight, everything collectively on rate of respiration, hence rate of beating, and hence longevity of life.
Thank you so much for this informative talk, and I'll definitely watch this again to absorb and digest what you said. Thank you very much, sir.
Parthiv, the next question is from our senior professor, Dr. Sharma.
Dr. Mehta ji, it's a very informative talk and really excellent. I just wanted to like that in this COVID has taught us a unique way like that putting the mask. And when we are putting mask, of course, we are protecting ourselves from dust, pollution and viruses and bacteria. But sir, I want to know that basically when we are putting the mask, then when we are exhaling CO2, then some part of CO2 remains there due to some obstruction near to our nose when we are taking next inhale. Then I think we are not taking the full pure oxygen. It is some again CO2 is going in. So how you will suggest how we should use the mask, how much time we should use the mask, and that can you please, it may be useful for everyone.
That is where, sir, this 3M medical mask is destined to be used for 8 to 12 hours maximum. It has number of pores sufficient enough to allow enough passage of air. And you all know the size of particle of oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, other pollutants much more than what I know, because I am not a physicist or a scientist like you all. So in that case, a respirable breathing mask would not lead to that. Unfortunately, what happens, I have a mask, and on the top of that I have put in another mask, and I have put it in tight. That will reduce the rate of clearance of carbon dioxide also, and the rate of entry of oxygen. But that is where once again this super creation comes into play. When I am having larger amount of carbon dioxide in my respired air, which is rebreathed, my kidney will start producing more bicarbonates. So bicarbonate will neutralize that carbon dioxide which remains in blood, because it is not getting a chance to get exhaled or eliminated. And that bicarbonate will neutralize carbon dioxide, and it will be thrown away by urine. You will be surprised. We have an exhaust in front, like cars have an exhaust in the back. The scooter has an exhaust in the back. We have a liquid exhaust in front, along with our nasal exhaust, which is also working as a gas exhaust. When I am drinking enough amount of water, that water is being used to flush every hour all the metabolites, all the acid which has been created, and hence my body will remain in a neutral physiological environment of pH and electrolyte and acid, and balanced mechanism would be there. So I'll not feel tired in spite of having put in a mask, because my kidney has learned the newer homeostasis, newer balance, wherein it will start functioning more. So this is our supercomputer, which on its own calculates. It is an autopilot mode.
Sir, just very simple that thing. You told the physiology and work only should be done like that 8 hours, then our body cells will be regenerative and all these things. What I learned like that, the Japanese people are most workaholic and they work from 16, 18 hours and
Yes.
they have maximum longevity. So I am saying anti-correlation in that. Can you put the light on
Amrut,
this?
I have a logic for it. I have a logic for it. Number one, what is average body weight and BMI of Japan?
Of course, it is lesser, yeah.
I'll tell
Because
you,
they are certain height.
it is 16 to 18. What is the consumption of tofu in Japan per head per capita? It is humongous. What are the food content they take? They take large amount of vitamin E, which is the one which is known to be helping our elastic tissue functions normal, right? But still, Japan has life expectancy not as an average. It has one of the highest life expectancy. Out of 100,000, 40 to 45 Japan people live 100 years. But had these Japanese not working for 16 hours, practically every Japanese would be living for 100 years. So there is still an impact of overworking and over burning out of the tissues. But yeah, there is lifestyle, there is weight, there is other many activities which would be a part and parcel of reducing the impact of aging in that particular population.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
I think the last question may be asked by Bushit Bhai, because there is a time already 5:40 or so. So we may not put more question, but Bushit Bhai, you can ask.
No, this is a very simple question for a layman like us in medical field. These days, it is seen that many of younger people like us creating deficiency of vitamin B12 and D3, and we are taking supplements for that. Due to this deficiency, we also generate some body aches and various other things, which force us to take painkillers, which is also not good. So, what could be the food habits or general advice on this issue?
This is once again a problem of modernization. RO, reverse osmosis water cleaning mechanism. What does it do is it just throws away B12 and all B complex group of vitamin which comes as a natural source from water. Human excreta, animal excreta has these vitamins which percolates into ground. From there it comes out into groundwater. It gets accumulated and we use it. So when I am using RO water, it is by default, it is known that I am going to have a water which is for long, not going to have such nutrients. So I am supposed to be consuming those multivitamins either as a supplement or as a therapeutic option if it has been found to be below normal level. My B12 group of vitamin is very important for my cognitive function, my neurological function, and my rest of the important functions of body. Then comes vitamin D3. It is talking about the joint and bones, and also it has an impact over allergy. Vitamin D deficiency has been known to create a person hyperreactive. This is a unique thing. There is something called as immunity, and there is something called as hyperreactivity. If my balance of my immunity and hyperreactivity is good, I'll be able to handle any situation. Simply a situation like I'm having a quarrel with somebody. My immunity against quarrel, this is my mental immunity, will tell me not to fight with him because it doesn't good. It's not bringing anything good. But if my mental immunity is low, in that case I'll go into quarrel, I'll be having a physical हाथापाई करेंगे, मार खा के आएंगे, मार के आएंगे. Right? But if at all I have that balance well, so in that case it will function well. So while I am wanting to have a balanced level of such immune enhancing and body function sustaining multivitamins, I am obliged to take in a certain clear-cut amount. Unfortunately, we are now in a GM food, genetically modified food. We are in a food which is not organic. Organic food, what was the value? Organic food means the cow excreta or even human excreta was used as a sort of fertilizer. So at that time, whatever multi-nutrients, vitamins, everything was there in excreta would come to that food, and through that it is going to come to us, which is not there. So I am supposed to be taking all these supplements the moment I cross my expected half-life, and that is 40 years for an Indian origin. because now we are 70, 71 years. So if I'm crossing 30, 35, 40, and along with that, if at all I have any of other disease process, if I am obese, if I am hypertensive, if I am diabetic, if I am having thyroid, if I am having stressful life, I should be replenishing those vitamins, those supplements as a day-to-day replenishment. Unfortunately, we don't read a price tag here of 150 CR. Had we been reading that, nothing would be a problem. We would be taking everything regularly.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So we have 2-3 questions in the chat box, but this is more or less covered in the lecture, and also the time constraint, right? I would like to call upon Dr. Bhushit Vaishnav again for the vote of thanks, and many thanks for all the participants who had participated in this wonderful medical lecture. Thank you once again. I will invite Dr. Bhushit Vaishnav for the vote of thanks. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Dr. Sheetal. Those who are watching this live stream and WebEx will all agree that it was a fascinating talk and full of knowledge and information. And thank you, Dr. Parthiv Mehta, for helping us to reduce the gap of I know which I don't know, which you started with. I know you are very busy in your schedule, and sparing this much time from your very busy schedule is really great for us. We are once again thankful to you as well as your team for having this lecture in this forum. I thank Dr. Anil Bhargava and Dr. Pallam Raju sir for their all the constant support for arranging this series of Vyakhyans. I thank our Vyakhyaan committee for their help in arranging this Vyakhyaan. And last but not the least, all the viewers on WebEx as well as YouTube for their active participation in our Vyakhyaan series, especially today and also in past. And we, we hope to see their continued support in future. Thank you for joining with us, and we will come back with another interesting set of Vyakhyans in time to come. Thank you again. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Parthiv Mehta ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
It was really, really great for us to have you reminding us